Here we go. Countdown in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mr. Henry Hill, welcome to the CamTalks show.
Thank you very much. I'm very flattered to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. How far have you travelled today to be in this lovely warehouse?
So I work in Oxford Circus. So it was
Busy.
yeah, but I mean, I used to live up here, up Turnpike Way.
You did?
We saw each other on the tube once. Very
Yes,
exciting.
yes.
Really put a bit of spice in my commute. So
It was good. And that was just when I first moved to London. You're the first person I randomly bumped into on the tube.
Oh, I mean...
And the last, actually.
Well, you've stuck it out here longer than me, I think. But Green Lanes, I recommend to anyone. If
Yeah,
anyone's
the
looking for a meal
Turkish
out.
Mafia's ex-headquarters. That was the first thing I learned. The first day I moved in to Green Lanes, I decided to watch a documentary about it. And turns out that's where the Turkish Mafia hid all their heroin.
Well, that's why I had to get away. You know, I think they had me up for.
That's it. They knew who you were. But it's quite funny
man.
because I actually went out of my way to go make friends with the Turks. And they were quite lovely people, you know.
You should go to Tarshish, the restaurant down the other end. It's on the kind of like raised level beyond Turnpike Lane. They've got sort of like purple flames coming out of the entrance, so it looks a bit bougie, but that's probably that's the one to go to. That's where all the Arsenal footballers, that they all go there because that's their favourite one to go to.
Interesting.
So,
Do you know,
yeah.
I completely even forgot that we have like Arsenal Football Club like here within radius of us right now. It was the carjacking thing.
Yeah, I think that was around.
I was like,
as well.
shit, wait, what? Are you telling me there's like pro football players just riding around in Mercedes around here?
No, I mean, look, Turnpike Lane. It's like anywhere else I've lived in London. Sometimes you look at it and go, what's going on? But
Yeah,
most of the time,
yeah.
it's completely lovely and fine.
So how long have you been in London for?
So I accidentally ended up going to UCL. I had a bit of an emotional moment where I was going to go to Oxford Uni, but I missed my grades in sort of the first big thing I failed. Not like
Fantastic.
failed, but
Yeah. Something major.
Yeah, I'd spent 6 months telling everyone I was going to Oxford. My parents had spent 6 months telling everyone I was going to go to Oxford. And then I didn't. And I was stuck on Alderney. And I was frantically, I have no internet in my house there, and I was frantically trying to refresh an iPad. And then probably my least favourite teacher called me up to announce the news that I hadn't got into Oxford. And I think he also threw in that I wasn't needed for the sort of like the Oxbridge photo. But yeah, obviously you don't have to come to that, which was, but yeah, so I ended up going to UCL, which amazing uni, and I've sort of, despite intending to leave, I've been stuck in London ever since, but it's great. I love it here. It's sort of
Amazing.
It's my home.
Give us a quick lowdown on who the hell Henry Hill is.
So I mean, the reason we know each other obviously is because through our Alderney roots. I'm from a town Dorking, and I sorry, I haven't really thought about this.
Where
before.
is Dorking?
So I'm from Surrey.
Sorry, God, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm careful how often I say that with my voice. So yeah, and I did an undergrad in archaeology at UCL, and then I've pursued a career in broadcast journalism, and now I'm I say YouTuber just to sound more funny but I'm just a humble production assistant working for the 13th most profitable football YouTube channel in the world.
Bam.
So there we go.
There you go. But I love it because obviously we both come from similar beginnings. Both sound a little bit posh, but that doesn't mean that we have in any way been kind of put on a different path. There's something interesting about what you've done, decided to do, particularly the work around history and around the Alderney Football Club, and obviously working in a company that talks about football. You're continually hopping from thing to thing and ideas, and I find that there's something about anyone that comes from Alderney that has the confidence to say, yeah, give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, obviously going there, so I've been going there every summer, and I think it's a real safe space to sort of, you can almost reset every year. You go there, you see the same people, you get going again, you can kind of refresh. And there's been summers where I've been there where I've been thinking, looking at everyone else thinking, I need to sort of figure out what to do. I think it's always been the place I go to kind of escape and gather my thoughts in that sense.
I like it.
And I think it was there really that my parents said, look, Henry, stop doing jobs you're not enjoying and just go for this journalism course. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm so happy I did, because the difference is a year later, I'm now in an industry. And I think you actually have a lot to, I'm in debt to you in that sense, because you always used to say to me, skin in the game and get involved, and you've got to have these ideas and sort of go through these ideas. And I think I've always had an issue of having ideas but not necessarily putting them into practice. And finally, kind of the path that I always thought I was going to go on, I'm sort of starting to go on in a very sort of loose way.
Yeah, no,
So
I
mean
appreciate
YouTube,
But I mean, how old are you now?
I mean, look, I'm only 24, but
You're only 24. He's a puppy, everyone.
Actually,
He's a puppy.
By the time this goes out, I'll be 25. I think that's very important.
When's your birthday?
Tomorrow, in fact.
Oh my God, tomorrow!
So,
Happy birthday, man!
Thank you,
dude. I feel really bad now because I used to buy everyone presents.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
When they came on here, but I couldn't afford it, so stop buying presents. Digestives.
Yeah, look,
there's a ton of digestives. Feel free to eat your digestives.
That's
That's
more
your
than I'll be
presents.
waking up to
Happy
tomorrow.
birthday! Well, look, dude, if it's any consolation, like you inspire me just as much as I inspire you, because when you have your friends around you, and like you said, you go back to Alderney every single year and you see the same faces. So it's like this weird like holiday camp where you just don't really know what's going to change year on year. And obviously some people are off, some people don't come back. And they're like, oh, where are they? They must be doing some amazing stuff right now, you know. And then they come back the next year like, oh, it's had a gap year.
I think the best are the friends that don't get the sort of the callback. You know,
that's it, yeah.
They come out and you can just tell it's not for them. And then
do you know what? It's not the same like when you get a little bit older. When you get into your 20s, Alderney literally hits a little bit of a wall. It's almost like, remember that last summer when we were all there on the beach, all doing everything at once? We're all here, but we're not all out on the beach this summer.
No, I know.
Have you hit that wall yet?
Well, I think my group's sort of been good at least going to the beach. I'm not sure we do much else. I think sort of running out of ideas. But yeah, I mean, I just at school used to be so funny. Sort of every year telling my friends what I was going to go do, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're gonna go to your bunker party, or you're gonna go to your quarry party?" Or I think they found some YouTube video from about 2005 where it's just this sort of old man in wellies sort of stomping around the quarry.
Right.
And they were like, well, if that's it, Henry, then I'm not really sure
Not
what
going,
you're doing out there.
Not going. I mean, what do your friends say when you actually try and explain that it's a bit more than just an old men in wellies?
Well, I mean, first of all, they say tax haven, to which I have to sort of slightly
agree.
slightly
cough.
Ensure. Actually, I don't want that included in the podcast. But
no, listen. I mean, dude, it's not a tax haven necessarily. No. It's got low corporation tax. I believe it's like zero inheritance tax.
Yeah, that's true.
But look, I mean, this is the point, right? Beyond the financial incentives to want to reside in Alderney or have a business in Alderney, the feeling of going back to the same place every year. How the hell do you explain that to people?
I mean, I think it really starts. Obviously, it's changing more and more now, but it used to start at the airport. When you get to Shoreham, it used to be Bournemouth before that. Shoreham was the best. That was really sort of, have you got anything in your bags that you need to declare? Nah, it's all right. So, on you go. And now it's a bit more highbrow. But I think it starts there, and then with the plane, which used to be obviously the Trilander, and now that's extended to the Dornier. And
do you like the Dornier?
I mean, I'm nonplussed. It gets me to Alderney, really. So I mean, it's got an R as well. So,
I don't like the noise.
No, yeah, I
Do you
get
remember that
to
frequency, that hum that used to get on the Trilander that just kind of used to shake your bones inside? It was
yeah,
quite
I mean,
nice.
I've been in Trilanders in the worst of weather and stuff like that. I think that's the most exciting. And we've had family friends who we haven't exactly sort of filled them in on the journey, as it were. And then you see them come off the airport and you see them come into the Alderney lounge. they look like they're going to kill someone. Mainly my dad. They look like they feel like they've been conned into the worst journey of their life. But I mean, for me, it's amazing. I love it to bits, and I used to cry every time. I used to take off and go back. But yeah, it is. I mean, same for you. We've obviously had our house there for a long time. So just to sort of go there and know that it's all set up and ready to go, and it's just so easy out there. I can't really explain that. We've got the beach 100 metres away. Yes, the weather is suspect.
Questionable.
Yeah, and I have been stuck there. I mean, telling my work last year that I couldn't come back because there was literally a storm and it was too unsafe to fly, and I was going to be stuck for 2 days.
That's legit.
I think it took them about 2 days to buy into that. But once they realised my life was in grave danger, I think it was all right.
They were cool with it. But that's the thing, is that like getting fogged in or just having to stay in Alderney, it's not a bad thing. I mean, for us, I think we're like, damn it, can't go to work, but down to Georgia.
Here we go.
Let's do this, But I mean, this is it. So, I mean, are you going this summer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I'll be there for a
So
week.
what else are you planning in 2020? What's 2020 got for
2020,
Mr. Henry Hill?
So I think the whole broadcast journalism thing, I've chosen to go into sports journalism.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a congested market. And my big joke that I tell my friends is I want to be the new face of Wimbledon. I've seen Sue Barker, love her to bits. there's going to be an opening at some point in that job opportunity. It's between me and Claire Balding, as well as I see it.
I like it.
So,
I like it.
So I think that's why I've ended up going into the YouTube to sort of start there and then sort of earn my stripes on the small screen, and then eventually, because I work for Sky. Technically, I work for Sky. So then I'll try and move over. So the aim this year really is to start building a presence online in terms of the content I'm putting out and sort of honing me as a presenter in sort of the workplace. And then kind of like, I guess falling back and enjoying being in London again, because being a student here for 4 years and then working in a job where I was working in Willesden Junction and commuting there from Turnpike Lane. So if you think about that commute, you actually skip the entirety of London. You sort of go in one end and you pop out the other. And you sort of, there are days where you forget that you're even working here. There's almost no point. You might as well be somewhere else. You're just paying loads of money. So I think this year is all about really enjoying being back in London again. And that's in a good job, living somewhere with friends that I like. And I think that's really the most important thing.
It's amazing, man. I mean, it sounds like the job you've got. I mean, so when you say owned by Sky, like this is like the channel is essentially owned by Sky.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real bonus in that. So I work for Diagonal View Productions, which sounds very cool in my opinion.
Diagonal.
Yeah, I don't think you can say it. You have to sort of say it like that, you know. You have to throw in a little move. But and they were bought by Sky because Sky were they were doing terrible in their sort of 18 to 25-year-old market. They weren't really hitting. It's all very flashy as suits and guys, and the American style I think was a bit outdated. And if you look at BT, I think it really pushed them to change the way that, in terms of how quickly they're getting their YouTube content out now, and sort of just not taking themselves so seriously. And I think they realised they needed to try and find a way to target that younger audience. They took on Diagonal View, and Football Daily was part of that, the channel, and it's a very big channel. It's got 2 million subs or something like that.
Amazing.
So, which is cool. It's not like people will look at KSI, Logan Paul, this big fight recently, but they're an inflated version, and they've got way more than 2 million. But 2 million is still really good. But
It's very good, yeah.
As a result of working for Sky, half our team were out at that fight in Las Vegas. Sadly, I couldn't quite make it.
They never bring the younger people, do they? It sucks.
So yeah, that's the
But
bonus,
this is interesting because the whole KSI Logan Paul fight. I mean, I don't actually think a lot of people know what the hell this is. I mean, without doubt, it's probably the biggest sporting event in social media history.
That's right. That's easy.
But my mother has no idea who KSI or Logan Paul are.
Yeah, and I don't imagine they ever will need to be honest.
Ever.
But
isn't that strange? Is that we now live in this world where this could be such a massive hype fest, and yet there's a lot of people that just have no idea what's going on.
I've spent my last year working for BT as well, and I work for ITV as well, doing their horse racing of all things.
Wow!
And a lot of what I've been doing there is just breaking down all of their content into small bite-sized pieces and pushing that straight out on social media channels, because really, and it took my dad. My dad was a bit confused by that at first, but I think he came around to the idea that is where it's all going. It's all about getting the best bits straight out, the way kind of you do with your podcasts.
Absolutely.
So expect to see loads of clips of me. And, it's all about just pushing that stuff out straight away. And it's really interesting to see like the engagement you get with that, and just the way that all these broadcasters are buying into the fact that you have to have this. Everyone needs like a podcast. Everyone needs to have a YouTube channel kind of set up and ready to go with all their content. And that's why it's kind of cool to be doing what I'm doing. I'm not kind of classically being a journalist as it's such, but I'm kind of getting involved in something which it's the direction that all these broadcasters are going in, and it's like a niche part of it. But if I can get good at that, then that's no bad thing.
There you go. But the correct word there is classic. The classic journalism, the classic any industry is classic because it doesn't exist anymore. And I think this is probably my biggest weakness when I was younger, certainly, was trying to make myself into someone that I used to admire, knowing full well that we live in the most prosperous age in entrepreneurship than ever before, and yet not seeing how my path is going to be completely different. So you might believe, oh, well, I'm not doing it the traditional way, but actually you're learning a whole new set of skills that you really, really need, right?
So recently at ITV, I got in a bit of trouble.
Oh, dear.
Got in a bit of trouble because I think this is kind of a collision of two worlds. Not that it was kind of intended to be, but I was tweeting about a race, and there was a horse. We'll call it Golden Dunes for the sake of this story. I can't remember its name.
It's very
but
interesting.
I didn't know. I didn't know the sex of the horse. I wasn't sure if it was a he or a she. I maybe could have figured it out. I'm not sure. Anyway, the race happened. Golden Dunes won, and I just put a tweet out saying, Golden Dunes, will they do it again next week? I called it they. I was like, that's what you do now. You call it they. If you don't know,
Yeah,
he or she,
I
that's
like
completely
that.
acceptable.
Good job.
Sent out another tweet. Golden Dunes, they strode to victory. What a win! And I was, nonplussed, not thinking about it. But sure enough, all the comments that came in were like, "Who's the leftist liberal nonce running your channel?" And like, sorry, I forgot this was a non-binary bullshit horse race and stuff like that. So I was like, wow, and it kept coming. And I called up my mates. I was like, I'm getting slated for giving a horse a non-binary description.
I love it.
And then the ITV producers called me up. They were like, "What have you done?" So,
But isn't that the irony here? Is that you started a conversation, and this is the thing that these people in these big established companies just fail to understand, which is that you started a conversation, the other tweets wouldn't have started a conversation.
Yeah, I think sometimes even kind of not bad, even just slightly controversial, if you put an opinion in there, that will get people going. I mean,
Yeah.
I did a video the other day. It was Guardiola, so the Manchester City boss, Guardiola's worst 11 ever signings. And the reason he's one of the best managers in the world is because he doesn't really make any bad signings. He's pretty much nailed it on every single time. However, I had to put in this left back. So I chose this Manchester City left back, Mendy, who cost like 54 million and is an amazing player, but he's been injured. He's ripped his ACL about 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row.
Classic.
Yeah, and as a result, he's only, I think, the amount of money they've paid per game for him is something like 2.5 million. So I included him in the list as basically, unless he proves his fitness and can have a run in the game, he will be a flop.
In one of the 10.
Yeah, and the comments were like, "How dare you include Mendy? That's a complete joke. He doesn't belong there. Who are you? Who are you to decide?" I'm like, mate, for starters, Mendy's not watching this video. Mendy doesn't care, and he's doing all right. He's earning more money than we can ever really imagine. So yeah, it's funny. Like, I love reading the comments. You shouldn't always read the comments, I should put up, but it's amazing how, like, with a fine comb, people go through your work and figure out, even if I forget to put a space bar between something, sometimes they'll call it up or something like that. And I guess that's pushing me to be better, but it is funny. I enjoy that kind of interaction.
Absolutely. But look, it's quality engagement. That's the thing, is that these people are taking their time to write what they feel about your content. That's all we can ever ask for. And I think that's the major difference between old school and new school. It's like, we want the engagement because engagement equals brand awareness. And brand awareness equals moving the bottom line of the company you work for. And the big wigs in the top of the company might not understand this, but today's world is this. It's an engagement world. We have to get that kind of engagement. So don't feel bad when you get the shit comments, because you've done a good job. I had to block someone recently.
Hey, really?
Yeah, I had a troll. This troll started trolling across all my content and writing the words wanker.
Hey, right, here we go.
But it was W.ANKER. I was like, shit, here we go. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to get rid of this person. I was about to say guy then. Could have been a girl. But you know what? And I felt a bit shit. Like, I was like, damn, like, why has this person gone out their way to do this to me? But then I thought, you know what, Cam? Don't worry. You've caused someone to act in a way that is obviously not right for them, because who spends their time trolling someone like me?
Do you remember your first ever troll? Do you remember your first ever comment which you were like, oh wow, he or she is really not happy?
It was that, mate. Like I think because of the consistency of being called a wanker over like so many different ones of my videos, I thought that's just mean. And ironically, all of the vlogs I've ever put out there, and I've only put out 7 vlogs, and it was really annoying because I stopped doing vlogs after the old new vlog. I thought it was going to mean that I was going to do this full time, but I actually ended up finding other opportunities, which led me into the world of cryptocurrency and all sorts of shit. But I do intend to bring these vlogs back. Now, what I found interesting is I never got any hate at all on these vlogs, to the point where, it's like the on YouTube. Like, I disliked my own video because it was like 97 like good likes, and I was like,
oh, you gotta have a bit of
I was gotta have a little bit about it there. But I really invite people to kind of like engage and tell me shit. Actually, one of my videos from a conversation we had went viral. When I say viral, had about 5,000 views in about an hour. On a particular group to do with dyslexia. So I was talking about how I've also got Ireland syndrome, which is like how you visualize stress is what they call it. So you struggle to read black and white because of the light and the dark. Now, fuck knows why I even decided this would be a good topic, but this was the topic that decided to get the entire Australian dyslexia community aggressive with me.
Oh, really?
And they were like, Cam, Ireland syndrome is not a real syndrome. It's the name of the brand that does the tests. How dare you be spreading this misinformation? 50 comments later, someone calls for me being blocked and they freaking removed the whole post. I was like, this was amazing. It was a good hour.
Working in like social media, you gotta be so careful because you never know. Unfortunately, I think people quite like sort of putting the dagger, sort of pushing it in.
Yeah,
you know, so they're not satisfied with like a sorry guys. They've got to keep going. But I did a video for my cousin Jamie started a restaurant in Brixton.
Of course, the Crut brothers.
Yeah, Recollect Brothers.
Oh,
Recollect Brothers. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure it'll be open by the time this goes. But I did a video with Ski Club GB where I made a tartiflette. It was like my somewhat like my Blue Peter moment where I sort of here's one I made earlier kind of thing. I got to say that, which is I think that's a real kind of that's a sort of a box ticked in terms of video content. But so this video's got like 4,000 or 5,000 views, let's say, from people I'm not sure who, mainly me probably. But one of the comments, there's 3 comments. And the first one was someone called Mick Avorian. I love the names people have on YouTube, by the way. And Mick Avorian said, "What have you done to this dish?" Sorry, Mick Avorian. He said, "What have you done to this dish? You've basically butchered it. This is an absolute shambles. I hope you're never paid to be a chef," or something like that. And I was just like, I can't believe he's been so insulted by this video about me making a tartiflette that he's decided to go for it. And then there were some comments going, "You're wrong, Mick. It looks amazing." And then. But yeah, that was my first troll. I'll always remember Mick Avorian. I think I might call that might be a pub quiz name for me or something.
Yeah, I like that. But dude, never ever never feel like these aren't good times. Like nothing bad has ever happened in social media. Like within reason, people can struggle with terrible mental health because of things. But content creator wise, brand content wise, nothing ever bad happens. Bloody Logan Paul filmed himself in a suicide forest in Japan and doubles his freaking followers, gets on a bloody amateur boxing stage and makes tens of millions of pounds. So like, it's really tough to say to people who want to tell you, oh, how bad that is. It's hard for you to tell them, no, it's not bad, it's as good.
Yeah.
It's a stance we got to take.
I'd never sort of endorse particularly what he did in that video. And I think he did get a lot of hate for that for a long time. But there is an element of story arc and redemption, and you never know really what's going on sort of behind the scenes in that regard. I think Tyson Fury has just released a book where he addresses sort of his dark period where he was caught saying some really horrid kind of comments and stuff like that, and he addresses the fact that he was so used to being called these things anyway, he sort of decided to become that character because that's what he thought people expected of him. And then he came out, he realised how that made him feel, and now he's come full circle and he's on this kind of redemption path. Obviously, he's now seen as like a comic character, this amazing kind of larger-than-life heavyweight boxer. But it is interesting how these things play out, and it's going to be really interesting depending on how far I go or something like that. How for yourself as well, like when these comments kind of come in, and when you start seeing sort of the reaction. I'm going to start presenting on this YouTube channel. People are probably going to take issue of that. The second you can, I'm looking forward. Well, I'm not looking forward. I'm intrigued to see sort of the reaction to that because it's going to be. That's going to be interesting, and I'm not.
Dude,
yet...
I'm there for you, man. I will be your troll hunter. I will literally, if I see a troll, I will whip her ass, man. I'll be like, look.
Maybe I need to recruit a PA just to go.
This
through
is the problem, is that I'm literally so dyslexic that like when it comes to writing, I'm like, shit, should I write this? No, fuck this. Block. They just get blocked.
Maybe I'll get someone with perfect English to.
Who knows? But that sounds like a great opportunity, man. And this is it. To get yourself in front of the camera is amazing. But I also know that you've got a lot of experience behind the camera.
Well, I wouldn't quite go that far, but
you have more experience than most journalists, which is amazing because you went out there and you made your own documentary about the Oldney Football Club, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's cool. 99 Years of Hurt. Check it out on YouTube.
Love it.
It's. It was really cool. It's sort of an idea I've always had. So for people who don't know, the Marathi is a football competition that takes place every year. The best way to describe it is the FA Cup of the Channel Islands. Guernsey, Jersey and Alderney, they've been playing it for well over 100, I think it's over 120 years now.
Bloody hell, that's huge.
Gearing on that. So it's a serious competition. And before World War II, they used to take it in turns to be in the final. So Alderney could be in the final one year, and then the semi-final, and then so go on rotation. But they kind of realised it sort of stopped during the war, and I think they realised that Alderney weren't nearly on the level because population-wise, it's
it's tiny.
And then since the end of World War Two. So they won it in 1920. They won the whole thing. The only time they've ever won the whole thing was in 1920. And then since then, they've lost in the semi-final. So now Alderney has to host the semi-final every year. So since like 1970, I think, Jersey and Guernsey have been going over and playing. And it's more like a formality for them. They go over there, they grumble about it. They play this game. Alderney goes and sort of dreams, I guess. And it's been brutal. They've lost like 11-0. There's a really big football YouTuber called Chris MD. He's got like 5 million subs, and he's from Jersey. He's based on Jersey. And he did a video about it, and he just, like, there was a bit on Alderney, and he just sort of took the piss out of them big time. Which is
slated.
It's kind of the attitude they have. But anyway,
wow.
This was the year. They're doing really well, the team. Shout out to Josh McCulloch, who's done a really good job.
Absolutely, bringing them back.
He's turned around, really has. And
it's coming home.
It's like one of those things I always wanted to go do it. I managed to convince someone to come out and do it with me. He doesn't realise I paid for the majority of his airfare because I felt so guilty
it's
about.
Such the world's most expensive airfare.
You should come. It'll cost you like, I don't know, 300 quid. But no, so I paid for a bit of his airfare, and we went over there.
Brilliant.
And honestly, the response in the island was so lovely. Like, the locals were brilliant. They really got behind it and they helped me out. And one of the really cool things is the Alderney Museum. So Julia Hempel, the woman who runs it there, really, really funny, like crazy Italian woman. She's brilliant. So we wanted to see some memorabilia, and she gradually put together all this kind of old newspaper clippings and the 1920s winners medal. Loads of people kind of contributed stuff, and even like the earliest kind of caps they wore, because you get a cap every time you make your first appearance for Alderney. And as a result of it, she realised they had so much stuff that they could put on an exhibit. So they had for 2 days they had a Marathi exhibit in the museum there.
Wow!
Which was so cool, because then suddenly the press were there and loads of people, loads of kids were coming who probably didn't know the ins and outs of it. But just purely because of going and making that little documentary and asking a few more questions, I guess, suddenly they realised, hold on, this is actually something really special, the fact that we do this every year. And there's a really great moment in the documentary. I won't ruin what happens, but
go check it out.
Where you see the older guys getting really emotional about it. It means a lot to them, and it was, I guess, it was amazing to sort of make that video. And it's funny now though. I sort of watched it on a big screen, and you notice all the things like, because when you fine cone it with during the editing process, you think you've got it to a point where it's done, and then you watch it on a big screen again, and you're like, jump shot.
Well, I mean, look, dude, I know that more than anyone, man. Like, it's never quite how you imagined it. But here's the thing: it's like, I mean, people can forgive, a bad host. They can forgive bad audio.
Yeah, sure. No,
they
I get
can
that
forgive
completely.
everything else. They can't forgive a bad story. And that is the one thing that you got really right. So how did you pick the story about Alderney's Football Club that obviously resonated with so many people who understood this?
Well, I think first of all, it's 1920 was the last time they won it. 2019 was last year, so that's 99 years.
Wait, they won it 2019?
No, they did. Well, it was 99 years since they'd won it previously. Don't spoil the movie.
I know, right? Jesus Christ, man.
And I knew that they were doing really well. I'd spoken to Josh. They were top of the Guernsey League. Really, I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen this year, but if there was ever a year where they were going to make a dent on it, if you look at the results, they've been getting closer and closer. This was the year. And they play Guernsey next year, which is exciting.
Amazing.
I think that's more of a bigger rivalry than Jersey.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, Jersey came over. They all came in like they all look very smart, sort of
their little
like
suits.
matching tracksuits and stuff like that. It was kind of a real contrast, I suppose.
Classic. And of course, Alderney's Football Club is tiny, right?
Yeah, so it's sort of sandwiched, for people who've not been or listening for the first time, I guess it's sandwiched between two giant forts, and it's very windy. Like, we watched the game the week before where they played a team from Guernsey, and the goalie literally took a goal kick and it went straight up and blew. He caught it again because it just blew up and then it just went straight back into his hands.
Crazy.
And they said that's what it's like every week. And
every week.
They always try and go over the win. They always, if they lose, they blame it on the win. They say the win wasn't in their favour that week, which is kind of cool. So
it's kind of nice, isn't it?
It is nice. The clubhouse is really quirky. I think Reg, the chairman's really, he's a larger than life guy as well. So it's got the right people behind it, and community is so important. And for Alderney to have a football team like that is amazing. They've got a rugby team now as well.
They have indeed, yes, and those guys are doing really well. I mean, the whole sports in Alderney is starting to kind of being redeveloped, really, I guess. So maybe, we need to get you ringside, pitch side. Maybe the Alderney's first sports channel. deserves your fine self as their.
I should say, Ed Rowe at BBC Guernsey, Alderney lad, he's been brilliant over the years and sort of banging the drum and getting Alderney a bit more press coverage that way. But yeah, I mean, I think AYTV is certainly a channel in the making. So
Hey, listen,
so to
AYTV is a fantastic idea, and the first time I heard about this idea, I thought absolutely brilliant, but it ain't TV.
Yeah, no, but that's
Yeah.
or it's not TV, but you can kind of play it off that.
But this is the point, yeah, is that like, so, this is why, I mean, Instagram TV, like, what the fucking hell is that about? It's
Yeah,
like,
it's
why
true.
would you call it Instagram TV? Because, the new generation don't even know what TV is. It's only for the sake of the oldies who are like, what do we do with this? Oh, TV. And my mum doesn't even look at Instagram TV. So this is the point. It's like, actually, AYTV, Alderney's own TV station, should just be a YouTube channel / Instagram.
Yeah, but it could be. It could just be called. It would exist purely within social media. I think that was kind of the idea. It would be a Facebook page and a sort of an Instagram, and you sort of buy into it. I think AYTV has got a nice ring to it.
I think it does, yeah.
It's relatable, but then you can sort of expand upon that.
And the aging population in Alderney would understand what it is.
That's it. There we go.
Yeah, I love it. But this is it. So, like, that needs content, right? And, you've created content, I've created content. How else are we going to get this content made? I mean, it's not like the island is, like, lacking interesting stuff, right?
No, it's not at all.
But how do we kind of get this stuff on camera?
Well, I think it would take us. It would take me.
It would take
someone...
a mean team of two crackpot, Alderney enthusiasts like ourselves.
I think, it would take just a solid week of running around the island, filming and having a bit of fun, I suppose.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Look, that's a conversation for another day.
Well,
but yeah,
we'll talk about that because it is upcoming the 100 years, right? 100 years.
That's it.
This is a big moment for Alderney. We can celebrate it, or we don't have to celebrate it. We could just wait till 200 years. I don't know. But there's a lot of opportunities now. And here's the thing. So the history in Alderney is interesting.
That's right.
I love Alderney's history, like ever since growing up. And I think it was strange growing up and taking, history at school because no one ever mentioned Alderney. No one ever mentioned the Channel Islands. I was in history lessons. Did you ever hear anything about the Channel Islands?
No, not at all. Not at all.
What was that about?
I mean, on one regard, I completely understand. Lots to cover. Lots of history.
Lots to cover, yeah.
But really,
but the fact that it just wasn't in the curriculum.
No, that's true. And I only really started paying attention to it when I did my archaeology degree, and I sort of went out and started really thinking about Alderney's history. And that's when you look at it and you realise it's 3 by 1 miles of just unbelievable content in terms of the amount of stuff going on there. It is nuts. It really is nuts. And it's funny because I told someone I was coming on this podcast, and they said to me, I won't say who, they said, "Oh, you're not going to just bore on about history, are you?" I went, "It's exactly what I'm going to do." So yeah, but it's, there's so, I mean, I think my dad and I, this is the one thing, the big kind of tour he does for me. If you just go to Essex Castle, so there's a Victorian castle on a hill, Essex, and that overlooks Laungy Bay, which is the old kind of Roman port of Alderney. So if you wanted to start like chronologically, you can go far back as the Paleolithic period, sort of 20,000 years ago, where on Jersey you've got mammoth killing sites. So you've got like cliffs where they were driving mammoths off a cliff and then butchering them. So they were holding like fire torches and pushing them off. And then you can find the butchered remains. There's a lot of archaeology going on there. So that's really cool. So you're starting there. Then you can kind of move into by the way, stop me at any point if you want.
No, please carry on.
Move into Neolithic periods. And this is a moment where Alderney and France were connected through an ancient forest between the two. And they would bring their dead over to Alderney, and there's like a sacred spot, the the Neolithics are overlooking the race.
Mm-hmm.
Up there, you've got sort of Neolithic tombs and stuff like that, which is
That's
cool.
a small tomb, though, right?
Yeah, it is a small tomb, but it's still there. It was there. There was obviously something about that view which really like took them, and they thought, this is a sacred kind of spot, which is cool. And then you move further forwards, and you get to like Iron Age, and then the Roman Age, and then going back to the nunnery at Laungy, they've discovered like beneath the Roman ruins, because they're doing a big Roman project now. They've discovered that they built on an Iron Age base. So you've got an Iron Age base there, which was then converted into a Roman castle. And then sort of the Elizabethans the Victorians came along, and the Elizabethans. And they've all done stuff to that castle as well. So you've got one building on Alderney, which has had about 5 different kind of historical uses through time, because then the Germans obviously used it as well. And if you look at Laungy Bay itself, you've got the ancient Roman port coming in. You've then got the German World War II wall. You've got this Victorian Raz, the forts, overlooking from either side. And then there's Iron Age kind of stuff as well going on there. So in one moment, you see how 4 like completely different eras looked at one area and thought, we can do something different with this. We can defend it. And it's funny, like Raz is a bit amusing in the sense that the Victorians built all these kind of forts in the 1700s because they wanted to fight off France. They were like, so they built 13 around the whole islands.
Wow.
Is it Elizabethan or Victorian? Anyway, they built 13. You've obviously seen them. But literally within sort of 50 years, they were completely redundant because that's when technology like caught up and suddenly France didn't have to come near the island. They could shoot at it from a distance. And then, so it's funny, you've got these 13 amazing castles scattered around the island, which have served about such a short period of purpose, which is kind of funny. I think it's like an invention which is outdated within about 5 years of it being released, and it's super, super expensive at the time. So yeah, that's my history lesson for everyone there.
Dude, I'm absolutely captivated, honestly, and I could talk about this, or I could listen to you talk about this all night. And I think this is the point: is that like anything to do with Alderney interests me.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, but certainly, you know, the history, it was so interesting for me growing up because, as I said, you know, history lessons wasn't taught. Then you go over to Alderney and like there's bunkers everywhere. You're thinking like, what is this? You know, you knew about the Germans from a very early age. It wasn't until last year that I really found out what went on in Alderney. Now, I know that there's a lot of people out there that will want to say this happened, this happened, this happened. All we can possibly do is read about other people's viewpoints.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic book called The Island of Dread.
Yeah, I've read it. Yep.
Dude, that book literally blew my mind away. This is a book about a young Russian prisoner of war brought to Alderney at the age of, I think it was like 16 or something, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
And the stories, I mean, he didn't even know what the island was called. They called it Adolph's Island. And then the beach, I was sat on Longy reading this, but they know about the name Longy and they know about the name Albert. And you're reading like everything you know and you can picture in your head, but with the most, like, the worst possible conditions, like concentration camps in Alderney. Like, how are we not more aware of all this kind of stuff?
So going back to what you said, why have the Channel Islands not been talked about? That is the one thing for me, I think. Because you go to people, yeah, there was a concentration camp in Alderney. Yeah, they had forced labour camps all in Alderney. And people go, sorry, what? And then same with Guernsey and Jersey, to different degrees. And that's when you go, yeah, these things really did happen on British soil during the war. You just don't know about it. And then that's when they kind of get weirded out, because then you go, yeah, I mean, the campsite now used to be a forced labour camp and stuff like that. And I took a friend and I said, I can show you where the SS kind of death camp was, because there's obviously a little bit of remain there.
Silt, right?
Silt, that's it, exactly.
Yeah.
And, for people that have no kind of, people who maybe haven't seen this stuff in the flesh, they've only ever heard about it, to go up and see that. I think we're kind of immune to it in the sense that we've grown up around it, like you said. But that's really like
it's
dark,
massive, man.
Really dark
it's
stuff.
So massive.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
crazy. Have you been to any of like Auschwitz or any of the European concentration camps?
I haven't yet. I really want to do that, but
yeah.
I mean, even just to sort of walk around those places, it is nuts. And I did my dissertation on the bunkers of Alderney.
Really?
So yeah, I did like.
How was anyone supposed to mark that, man? Okay.
No, it was interesting, and I spent a lot of time like in the bunkers. I did something called a phenomenological survey, which is kind of the wishy-washy side of what I did. But a
silent retreat?
Yeah, I mean, essentially that's what I did. I sat in a bunker in pitch black for like 4 hours, and I imagined what it would like. Well, I'm not saying I in any way completely replicate
this isn't
it,
scientific at all, but like it gets you in the space.
The idea was to try and like replicate the idea of what it would have been to be in a concrete box, fearing that the enemy were overhead. And it was just, I just sat there in silence for a couple of hours, and I just had to like think about it. I had to like think about the concrete, think about the cold, think about sort of the miserable nature, the materiality of these kind of concrete boxes. That was mad. Well, I mean, it was a bit of a weird 2 hours, I'm not gonna lie, but
Great
it was
experience,
that was cool. Like phenomenology, people sort of break that down for people. An aspect someone might do is walk around an ancient landscape with a door frame, and then they'll put a door frame up and they'll imagine what people would have been looking at. Why would people live here? What's significant about the view they might have had and stuff like that. So it's about to like try and understand why people appreciate landscapes and stuff like that. And why do we choose certain places to live? Because it's not always that mineral. For a lot of people in the past, it used to be kind of spiritual and stuff like that. So,
Wow, so historians are literally reliving the past.
yeah, well, they're trying their best to. I'm not sure they're doing very good, not doing a very good job.
And how did
about
you do in your dissertation?
I got a first. Yeah, it was good.
Ah,
I think
congratulations,
it's cool.
man.
I don't think they, like you said, it was kind of unique to have done that. But yeah, a lot of people that helped me out in Ordney on that, and it was looking at a lot of the war art as well, because there's lots of like graffiti in these bunkers. There's an amazing one overlooking sort of near the airport side. There's sort of like a big naked woman that's been painted, and then you can still see etchings of like where they played noughts and crosses, the Germans, and then there's one where they've got like Hitler as the devil, and then there's another one I was focused on wallpaper. So they were like wallpapering up these they were recreating wallpaper and painting it on, and trying to sort of like recreate the idea of the home in these bunkers, because it was rubbish. It was obviously rubbish for the prisoners. Not excusing anything that happened. It was rubbish for the Germans as well. For a lot of the time, there was really not much food. It was kind of pointless for them. They were kind of saying, why are we here on this island, which the British were not concerned with at all. And I think it was there was no women. It was mainly men. None of the locals stuck around. It was really like miserable existence for a lot of these people. And I think people forget, like, it wasn't fun for anything.
Absolutely.
I think, out there.
I mean, but I think this is the point, is that actually the horrors that went on there haven't really been truly documented, apart from through these journals and through these stories and stuff like that. And when I was reading this, what's his name, Georgy Strov, some Russian name, but it was horrifying to hear how they were brutally forced to work in these conditions, and then how, just you could imagine it so clearly because you know the island.
Yeah,
and I think that's the number one thing that struck me, to the point where I've actually written a script. Right.
Okay.
So it's a fictional film. It might become a web series, but it's about Alderney and during the war days. So look, at no point am I saying this is based on a true life story, because it's not. But it's based on the fact that this was an island that had huge amounts of concentration camps, huge amounts of forced labour workers, and then also the fact that the SS were there.
Yeah,
the SS were there. I mean, these are like the guys that Star Wars is based on, man. Do you know what I mean? Like the guys with the good boots and you're like, how would we not know about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think the Germans, they didn't all. So there's Operation Todd that built all the kind of bunkers. And then there was the SS, the Luftwaffe, which is the Air Force, and then the Army and the Navy. And they didn't all get along. They didn't all talk to each other. It wasn't like a big cohesive unit. They basically split up the island and was like, that's your bit, that's my bit. We're not going to talk to each other.
Wow.
It's very kind of like territorial. And yeah, I think they all sort of looked at the SS as just like, those guys, we don't talk to them kind of thing. It was different. But yeah, it's...
Because the stories in this book, The Island of Dread, were very much about how there was a different feel to the island when the SS arrived. And it wasn't necessarily that they were just as brutal, if not worse, but they didn't want it to be seen. It was like, we don't want to see these dead bodies anymore. Let's just, let's push them into a grave. And I think hearing this story from a journal kind of point of view was just horrifying, man.
Did you read when they managed to get him back to the island? Because he came back at like the age of 70, and he met an English guy, and he didn't quite know the name of Alderney, but he was sort of trying to explain the experience he had. I think also the worst thing about him is he ended up going to a gulag in Russia
afterwards.
Because as a result, because he was like punished for helping the Germans. So he goes, gets liberated from this island, goes back to Russia, and then he's punished again essentially for being punished, and he's sent to a gulag, which is
even worse,
like
right?
Siberia. I mean, that is just that is the worst luck. I mean, the fact that he came across as like quite at the end of it, a humble, sort of forgiving kind of guy, I suppose, in the book. And he came back to Alderney, as I was saying, which is really cool. They managed to figure out that he was talking about Alderney, and then they managed to make the connection, and they brought him over, and that was really cool. That's
amazing,
awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, really good. Well, listen, I believe this history is yet to be, really shown to the world. And dude, if anyone's going to do it, I think we should.
Well, I've heard Dan Snow sniffing around. I've heard, I think we need to send him a cease and desist letter.
Well, you know what? I don't care about these big TV companies coming over to Alderney, because they're never going to care about Alderney as much as we do. There
was the Adolf's Island TV show.
Ooh, that rumbled a few feathers, didn't it?
Not get a good reaction.
Mate, everything rattles feathers on Alderney. That's the thing, isn't it?
I think even to call it Adolf's Island is such like a...
Well, I mean, that was what they called it in the book. That's what these prisoners of war thought it was called. Because Adolf Hitler is Adolf's Island, right?
Yeah, it is an interesting island where you can rumble feathers very easily. You know?
Yeah.
People, I think as people are discovering, you can't going over there and trying to start something new. You know, it's you're a fine line away from pissing people off.
Absolutely.
Over there,
Did
so,
you move that rock?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Who told you could do that?
yeah. But this
So,
is
yeah.
it. I mean, I do hope there's a lot more stuff going on. I know that Dan Snow is going to be doing some interesting stuff. But this is the point. Is I think we should take this into our own hands. You know, certainly I think that what we were talking about a long time ago, but like an island history tour.
Yeah.
Going around all of the different forts, bunkers. You know, I'll film you. Yeah, you give us a lowdown on what we know about these things, and
Yeah, I think a little vignette in each of the forts, just a little breakdown.
Yeah.
That could be quite effective as sort of a
I think it
short-term
should.
bit of content, and I think that would be cool. And I think essentially this goes back to what I was saying about how we used to talk about this kind of stuff, and you said, "Come on, let's do it." I'm gradually pushing myself towards a point now where I'll have like an audience, I'll have the experience in front of the camera, and now I can actually say, you know what, yeah, we can go do that. Because I think before I'd get nervous about the idea of actually doing these things, but now it's at a point where we can go and do these things because I know what I'm doing. I know you certainly know what you're doing. Your drone footage, everyone, you know, when I submitted my my documentary, everyone was like, "Oh, wow, your drone footage is amazing." I was like, yeah, it's pretty good.
No problem,
Yeah,
man. No
yeah,
problem.
just flew a drone,
But
no
that's
problem.
interesting because actually, since that drone footage was shot, maybe 6-7 years ago, because of the whole Gatwick thing, it means that drones are no longer able to fly on Alderney because
Is it?
it's within 3 miles of an airport. Without special permissions, there's ways around it, and I'm hopefully battling that. But the last time I brought a drone over, it wouldn't even take off. So it's,
When you say it wouldn't even take off, is there some kind of
Yeah.
force field pushing it down?
So
what are you on about?
DJI, the company that make drones, they are also the authority on drones as well. So they have a global sort of their policy. It's a bit like BMW being the DVLA. It's like we'll make a car that goes 150 miles an hour, but we'll cap it at 70.
So essentially, your drone is geo blocks, depending on where it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's
so
mad.
It is mad.
That's annoying. It's
Yeah,
like,
I know,
what the hell is
right?
wrong with my drone? I think
Trust me.
people around the world are just throwing away their broken drones.
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
oh,
And
this is rubbish.
Ironically, the older drones are now the ones that don't have that kind of thing about them. But I even wrapped it up in tinfoil. I was like, I got this, Cam. It's all got to do with like radio waves and shit, so I'll just wrap it in tinfoil.
off the grid drone.
And it
is
didn't work. It didn't work at all.
That's how stories about UFO starts, and they see like weird shiny objects.
Yeah. But listen, the last time there was a drone on Alderney that people didn't like, they bloody shot it down. Mr. Steve Roberts, freaking
I heard that.
member of our fine states, he said, "Yeah, what's that? You hear that noise? Get the shotgun." Boom.
They are the most annoying sounding things in the world. Like
They are.
I've been on a beach and someone's flying their drone, and you do want to just take a pebble and knock it out of the sky. You know,
Just get out of it. Yeah, but it's that humming, I think. The humming is just like, that's the most irritating thing. When I've been flying my drone for a long time, I hear it everywhere. And I
really?
just stop and look up. I'm like, okay, no. There was actually one time I was in Manchester and I took my drones to off a car park and I was like, this is a perfect place, right? And so I lifted off the ground. As soon as I got about 10 meters off the ground, this thing just took off.
Oh, really?
It just started going towards the tram line. And I was like, what's
my
going
God.
on? What's going on? In my head, I'm thinking, oh shit, I read about this somewhere, about like the radio frequencies and it's literally going towards a tram. And I'm thinking, this is it. So I start running down the car park as if I was going to go somehow find it. And I was like, no, it's gone. And for about 10 minutes, I was just sat there thinking, where's it gone? Where's it gone?
So your drone's just taken off, disappeared.
Disappeared, disconnected
So
from
it's
the
like
controller.
letting a dog off the lead, and it just like
It just
there we go.
disappeared,
Right,
yeah.
Great.
And I didn't know what was going on, so I just sat there, back at the car park, just like shit. And then like 10 minutes later, I hear this.
Oh no!
I look up, and this little bastard had just like come, and obviously it like found home again, like a dog.
Mate,
and then
that's
it just landed. I was like, no, never again. But lots of experience with drones, man. And this is it. Alderney is such a beautiful place to be flying drones, and so I do hope I can unlock this, this island's beauty with them.
Is your footage? Because I found it off on a YouTube video as well.
Yes, yeah.
Is that's what it was all used for?
Yeah,
Essentially?
yeah. So essentially,
Very years.
7-8 years ago, I did a bunch of marketing videos for Alderney, which they only used like one of them, and they butchered it, which
Yeah,
was
okay.
classic, marketing people that don't know what they're doing. They go, oh, let's put some titles on it. I'm like, no, don't touch it. But yeah, shot a series of videos, and yeah, thankfully I'm still using that drone footage today. I actually been doing some work with the current Oldney's marketing, which are two fantastic ladies who are really kind of pushing this digital evolution forward slowly. It's an evolution, but we've made a web series called Meet the Islanders,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
it's a very short episodes of people that live on Alderney. And yeah, I think that you'll be seeing them in the new year at some point.
That's so cool. I mean, the thing about Ordinary, I think it's got the highest per capita, like the highest amount of charity giving anywhere in the world.
I believe that.
Which I really, I think epitomises the kind of the community spirit out there. I mean, I'm fairly sure that is a fact. The amount of people that get involved and make things work, like it's not easy to make a society function, especially with only 2,000 people.
Yes, yeah.
And they've kind of got it down to a T in terms of keeping everything going.
100%, man.
But I was fishing in Devon, in Cornwall. I was down in Salcombe, and I was on a fishing trip with some mates. And the fisherman, I was just talking to him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, next week I've got to go over to this place called Alderney. Oh, it's an absolute ball ache. I've got to go demolish." He was doing a demolition job, and I think a bunker that was falling off a cliff. He was like, "Oh yeah, such a faff getting over there." Yeah, and my friend turned around to me and said, "I'd be careful what you're saying at the moment." I went, "Yeah, I quite like the place." It turns out. So,
actually, won't you say that again?
Oh, yes. Oh, great, isn't it? I mean, obviously, very beautiful. But yeah, that was funny.
Wow.
Funny.
And how many other people do you meet who know about Alderney?
I mean, it's one of those things where I try and not talk about it as much, just because I think people get bored. I think in terms of me going, "Oh yeah, I'll go to Alderney," and as a local, informed me very recently, I'm not a local, and I think that's important to stress.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm not a local either, man. No.
You know, and I think that's completely fair enough. It's all well and
we
good
would be
to gush
what
about
they
it.
call grockles.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, grockles are people that are come to the islands once a year, whatever. I did when I was younger. I got semi-grockle status.
Semi-grockle.
Yeah, because I used to go there like every other weekend and stuff. So I used to hang around with a lot of local guys, and yeah, I believe I had to do some really dark things to get that.
Really?
But I was a semi-grockle. So
I played for Alderney at tennis, and we used to go over to Jersey. That was fun.
Wow.
That's when I sort of felt part of it. That was exciting.
Now this reminds me of these big league football clubs shipping in their players from overseas.
So back in the day where I used to want to be a pro player, I went and did a tournament on Jersey as the Alderney tennis team, and because it wasn't quite within the UK point system, it was basically double. It was worth double what I did. So I got to like the quarter final of a tournament. Okay,
Incredible.
But then those sort of like currency converter, those points translated into like double in UK terms. So I was suddenly one of the best ranked players in Surrey for a short period of time, despite being pretty rubbish. And all my mates who'd spent all summer on the circuit, like going to all these tournaments. This was when I was about 14 or 13. I suddenly was ranked above all of them, but with a fairly rubbish result. But it was amazing. We went over there. I think it's the first time I stayed in like a mansion. So we went over there and we were all assigned these giant houses to live in, and that week was pretty cool.
Incredible.
I think. Yeah, I mean,
tennis is a rich sport, right?
I mean, it's to be a pro in it. I think is probably the hardest. I mean, my mate, he got like 600 in the world, I think, and to keep going, to keep doing it, to keep going to these tournaments, to keep applying yourself and believe that you could push your way up. It's hard, man. People say it's a rich sport, but I think it's probably the worst sport to not be at the peak of it in. So yeah.
It's like a one man thing, isn't it? One woman thing. It's like it's not like a team where like you could be in the top team. It's like you're like one.
Unless you're there's lots of other people in your nationality which you can go around the circuit with, and you maybe have one trainer who trains all of you. If you're just if you're from a lower economic country and you're trying to do it and you can't afford a coach and you don't have many mates on the tour with you, that's when it can be really bleak. And I really sympathise with every tennis player. Like people think it's all kind of fun and games. It's only fun and games when you make it to the top. It's not like football where you can earn silly money from third tier onwards. That's not the case at all. But anyway, I mean, it's a really interesting look at it. I've talked to my friend a lot about that kind of stuff. So yeah.
What is your obsession with sports, man? Because I freaking hate sports.
Yeah, I don't know really. I guess everyone likes having that one thing they're slightly better at than your friends, I suppose. And I suppose tennis was that for me, so I got into that. I'm not saying I'm particularly amazing, but it was something where I could gloat about it in a little sense. I'm a bang average footballer, I'm bang average at pretty much every other sport. But I don't know. I think it starts from playing it. It's weird. My dad likes none of the sports I like at all. So There's no reason why
TV time is
should
tough.
Be good. It's a big joke that I was adopted growing up. So yeah, because it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's only a joke until you find out you were.
Well, yeah, I thought I was sort of Princess Diana's love child. That was the big joke.
Yeah.
That's what we.
Wow.
Cause my mum met her when she was working an award once, so I decided that must be it. Because,
that was the moment.
So yeah, I mean it's a far-fetched dream, but yeah, I don't know. Sports. I think it's like the easiest. Having a base knowledge of football is the most important life skill, I'd say, to everyone. You can go anywhere in the world. If you can blabber on a little bit about football, then you're going to make friends. If you meet anyone from anywhere, all the way. I've been to South America. I went all the way. I did the Mongol Rally, drove to Mongolia. I've done all these things. And every time I go anywhere, if you can just talk about football. I mean, the amount of like border crossings in Central Asia, going from like Kazakhstan to Uzbekistan in the middle of nowhere, and people go, oh, David Beckham. You're like, oh yeah, I know David Beckham. I mean, I went to all right, so I got to Azerbaijan. Okay, I was in Baku, and I'd driven there in this Polo, and my back was in a lot of pain because it wasn't very comfy, and I really wanted a massage. I was stuck there for a few days due to the ferry. I was thinking, I'm in a sort of decent city. I'm gonna go get a massage, and I mean, I guess on a more crude sense, I'd sat next to my really scruffy haired friend for about 3 weeks in a row, and we both stank. And I don't know, I think it'd be nice just to be loved by someone else, I suppose. So I went to this. I asked the hostel owner, I was like, "Can I get a massage?" They were like, "Oh, you want a massage, do you?" I went, "All right, not that kind of massage. I just want a sports massage."
Happy ending.
Yeah, I went, "All right." And he laughed, and he sent me somewhere. And I went in, and the receptionist was really beautiful. She was like, "Oh, welcome. Yeah. Come on through. I was like, "Brilliant. This is going to be nice. It's going to be really, really relaxed." Went into the steam room, and this giant man, like really giant, hairy man, came in. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And he looked at me, and he goes, "Oh, Genry." So that's how they call you, Henry, Genry in Russian-speaking countries. Like, "Genry, with me." I was thinking, oh, Christ, this isn't quite the sort of the fairy tale I was thinking about.
Wow.
But and he put me on this son of stone slab. He started like massaging me. I was like, well, I've paid for this now.
Enjoy it.
Gonna enjoy it. Anyway, it was all normal, all fine. And then he dragged me into this steam room where I couldn't see anything. And he suddenly produced these two bushes, like sort of Russian style massage. He produced these two giant bushels. And he started smashing me so hard. And he didn't speak any English, but all he was screaming at me was, "David Beckham, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, Chelsea." And it was like, I was like, "Yes, I know all these players. Yeah, I know what you're about." And it was a surreal moment where he just kept screaming English footballers at me, whipping me.
My God.
Then he dragged me out. He like dunked me in this ice bath, pulled up again. "Steven Gerrard, yeah." And then like down again, back in the steam room. Hit me more, sort of saying these other names. Liverpool, Chelsea. Oh, this is so surreal. And then he put me back on the slab. We then went and had a tea where he invited me to his family home in the mountains, which I found quite bizarre. But yeah, and then he started like basically jumping on me. And to be fair, I was more flexible at the ends of that massage.
It was a deep tissue massage.
Yeah, that's it. But
plus
like
the whipping.
I just love the fact you can go anywhere in the world as long as you like a bit of football. People talk about it. I mean, yeah, it's nuts. It was funny. I hope that wasn't a boring story. But
no, it was hilarious, man. I've never actually accepted a massage from anyone. I think I had.
You're missing out.
I am missing out. I did have a deep tissue massage once actually. I tell a lie. But I had hurt my back, so I was like, oh, I've hurt my back. Let's go have a deep tissue massage.
Yeah.
Not a good thing to do.
Well,
don't
get one in Azerbaijan. That's
no.
One other top tip.
But that sounds fun. So have you done a lot of travelling? Outside of going to Alderney?
Yeah. I mean, it's an expensive excursion, Alderney, so I've managed to save up outside. But yeah, I've I don't know. I guess through uni, maybe it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I always thought summers were for sort of venturing off. I was really lucky of archaeology in that I spent 3 weeks in Italy working on a project there, and then I spent 3 weeks in Spain doing a Spanish Civil War dig, which was really cool. Kind of similar tones to what we were talking about earlier in terms of that conflict. But and then I went off to South America when I was younger, and then I did this Mongol rally, and then since then I think we're moving into city break time, isn't it? That's what it's all about.
Establish yourself in a city, build yourself a little career, or whatever you want, and go to Alderney every year.
Yeah, I mean, George Downs, if he listens, he dragged me to. Me and him, we went to like Barcelona and then went to Cluj in Romania last year. I was desperate for a holiday and he convinced me to go to Cluj in Romania with him, which maybe that was a mistake.
Cluj?
Yeah, I mean, this year I've been to Riga, Cluj and yeah, I went to Riga, Cluj, and Athens. And if you said to me at the start of the year, you're going to go to these 3 cities, I'd have, I mean, I just need to pick some conventional holiday destinations and go, I think. But yeah, no.
That's great, obviously, because now you're back in London and you're doing a job that you like.
That's it.
And something that is actually aligned with what it is you want to do, which is amazing, really. When are we going to see a little bit of Henry Hill original? When are we going to see your own content kind of flurry? What do you got planned for us?
I am trying to get hold of a camera. I need to get up my sort of technology in terms of what I've got. I think that's kind of the important thing. So maybe this year's the year to invest in that.
So what exactly do you need? Have you got an iPhone?
I've got I've got a Huawei. I've got my Huawei.
A Huawei, okay,
So,
that's all right. Decent camera. MacBook, PC, what do you?
Yeah, that's what I need to upgrade. I basically just need to get all the stuff. I need to get a basic microphone, and I'll be able to offer.
Well, dude, look, these microphones are 20 quid each.
These ones?
20 quid each on Amazon. Would you believe it? Absolutely not. These headphones were £9 each on Amazon. This audio recorder was £120, which I use for other things as well that you can plug it into. And then obviously the 2 cameras, which given are expensive cameras. But actually, I would also shoot this on an iPhone if I could.
Yeah, I think mobile journalism, that was something that we were actually taught explicitly. Like the amount you could do.
It's huge.
With your phone. And the point is, if you're a reporter and you're living, say you're somewhere and you're in Finsbury Park and let's say the person who drove into the mosque a few years ago in his van, if you're living in Finsbury Park and they say, can you get there ASAP? You can just get there with your phone and record that straight away, and then that's upline quicker than anyone else. So yeah, mobile journalism is cool.
It's hot, man. It's real hot.
And you can do so much of it. And the technology is only getting better. I don't know if you saw today, Motorola Razr, they've bringing back one with a foldable screen. So,
love it.
Yeah, so it's going to be, that's the new.
I used
that's
to
the
love
next level.
that phone.
So, yeah, that's quite cool. That was my favourite thing to see.
Yeah, I remember that phone really, really well. I think that was the first phone that I cracked because obviously it was the first phone that had proper glass on it. Yeah. But I'd be excited to see it coming back.
How have you, in terms of creating a podcast?
Yeah.
How have you? Because obviously a lot of people are moving into that and they've realised that's what it's all about. How have you found about trying to get an audience? Are you not concerned? Is this something that's going to kick on in the future? What's your kind of long-term?
So look,
ambition?
I make these podcasts mainly because I've just started a video podcast studio. So my video podcast studio is like a video production company, but we make podcasts for people. So I go into business once a month. I put the cameras up, however many microphones they want, and we create their own podcast. This really is an example to my first clients what I wanted to do because I didn't have a proof of concept. So I started this knowing full well that actually all I really wanted to do is show them that by filming it, we can then take from one episode about 30 pieces of additional content, short video clips, images, blog posts. We could just extrapolate value from what is quite a time. It's easy to do this,
sure.
right? Because traditionally marketing, creative marketing takes long lengths of time. This is so simple. We could do so many a day. I realized that when I started this, I wanted to build a business, and that's what I'm doing right now, and I love it. But ever since all my friends and family have been getting in touch saying how much they love it, I just figured, why don't I just do this with my friends and family? Why do I need to go and interview these top professionals or, get these amazing people on the CamTalks show? Because I'm like, you and I share an audience, and our audience know who we are. So why don't we just entertain them, make the content for them? And look, if something happens from it, great. But I don't want to be known as, Cam Kenduff, the bloody podcast guy, because I have aspirations to be a filmmaker and I want you to be watching my movies, not necessarily my podcast. But knowing that I enjoy this, I love videoing anything, but this is super simple. And we might chat for an hour, 2 hours, and around an hour mark, you might have said one thing that we could never have scripted.
Yeah,
and
sure.
That's what I believe in because I'm passionate about storytelling. And so storytelling for me comes in all mediums, all shapes, all sizes. And so the opportunity just to have a chat with you and be able to go away and, put this together in a way that people can only listen to 2 minutes of it, but then they can go off and start telling a friend about Alderney or tell a friend about, your... your massage thing.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure that will do the rounds.
Listen, man, like, I really do think that like the opportunity ahead of everyone today is to try something new and try something different. And I didn't think that video podcasting would be something that I wanted to do a year ago. You know, a year ago I wanted to start a company that offered vlogs to other companies, right? But the problem with vlogging is that unlike where a YouTuber will wake up every day and they're happy to start vlogging at breakfast, lunch, dinner because it's themselves, you can't say to a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, we're going to do a daily vlog where we follow you around all the time, because it's just not possible. They're so busy, they got all this stuff, and maybe in 10 years' time they'll realize the value of it. But so I went for all these different meetings with these big CEOs, and I made a few vlogs for other people. But I realized that for me to come to your offices for a week and essentially only come away with, you know, a couple of videos just wasn't good enough.
Sure.
So the idea about actually, and then that was what drove me to understand that CEOs are busy. So I thought, if you're busy, and how many days a month can you commit to me? And they're like, half a day. So I was like, right, what can we do with half a day of your time? Video podcasting. So if we go into business for one day and we do 10 podcasts, shorter than this, you know, maybe up to 20 minutes, then essentially that's 20 weeks of content. You know, and by maximizing it, by looking at the micro content as being the real thing that we want to promote, then suddenly, you know, it's a whole new kind of
Yeah.
industry, you know. So that's the idea
No,
behind
it's
it.
cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
My favorite. So I get a lot of my news content now on YouTube on boxing specifically and football as well. And I was like tennis, ATP, tennis TV is now like a big thing now. They're sort of growing and growing. And the best thing about in boxing, there's IFL TV and Behind the Gloves, which are two kind of channels they have. And all it is just camera in the face of the boxer, asking questions directly. No kind of, clearly no middleman, no kind of, no one, PR man just sat there watching. It's just simply produced, sort of has its little intro, has its outro kind of video. But then it's just simple one-on-one interview, 12 minutes, let's talk, and then it's off. And that's all it is. And I think that's such an effective medium. Like you can play around with this stuff as much as you want. Sometimes like the simplicity of it is so good because you've got a guy that clearly has a rapport with these boxers, asking them the right questions, provoking them, sometimes prodding them, getting the right thing. And the best Twitter handle is like No Context Hearn out right now. It's just Eddie Hearn, who's like the big promoter, and someone has gone into a smaller level and just taken the funniest moments from him from all of these interviews and put it in like a no context thing on Twitter, and that's suddenly got more followers than his actual account. But yeah, I think and even in football now, all these clubs are having these mini series made about them from the inside, and this is like, I think it's a really exciting time to be doing this kind of stuff and to sort of be following people around and trying
Absolutely,
to
man.
eke out little storylines. And
So look, one of the
that.
biggest challenges that I faced, and I've only been doing this for 2 months, right? So 2 months ago when I decided to buy all this equipment, first time I set this stuff up, so, you know, I'm kind of used to it now. But when I was talking to businesses, one of the first things they always asked me was, are you going to present it? And I'm talking to like finance companies, tech companies, and I'm like, no, of course I'm not going to present it. And they're like, well, we don't want to present it. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of the value of it. So I started thinking, I'm like, well, so how are we gonna kind of make this work then? Because you've got these companies who do want to show the world what they stand for, but they don't necessarily want to be on it. So then I started looking amongst my friendship groups and started seeing that, oh, I had some friends who have dreadlocks. Well, there's the biggest dreadlock company in the world who do this lovely thing. So, right, let's put you as the host and let's go and pitch to you as a company and say, do you want to work with this person with your own podcast? Yeah. And that's, I think, how I'm going to be going forward with pitches, is finding people who have a niche, who have something they'd like to talk about, and then being able to pay them to be on someone's podcast. I think that's a good way of cool. You know, getting people to do it. However, there's so many opportunities right now, man. I think the traditional audio podcast companies, you know, some of them are huge. They have like 50 to 100 people. And when you look through the catalogue of podcasts that they've created, all the BBC shows, or the big, you know, they do all the big podcasts, but they're all audio only. They're not video. And I'm wondering why the hell these are not video, because I don't know how I'm supposed to find out about a podcast unless I see it somewhere. But, you know, my friends tell me about podcasts, so I go and listen to them. I look at the charts all the time, so I listen to them. But I wonder how other people even expect you to come in and listen to your podcast unless you're filming it. Now, the big thing, and I was telling this about earlier, like the transition from classic to, you know, outliers.
Yeah.
How can you expect an audio company with 100 broadcast journalists and audio engineers to ever do this kind of stuff, because their business model is not geared up for it. It's like what are your 100 staff going to do? When suddenly you realise that you need video first journalists.
Yeah,
Sure. And so suddenly this is where I feel like CamTalks as a company, I want to be working with people like yourself who can set up cameras and go and do this kind of stuff. But then also anyone that kind of wants to learn how to do this, I'm quite happy to teach them. It's not a hard skill at all. And I've always thought, like, if you can Google it, then I'll tell it to you for free. Like, that's not something I really give a fuck about, because it's like I want to see more of you doing this, because ultimately this is the type of stuff that people engage with this on my Instagram all the time. They send me messages and I put out a message the other day saying, who wants to be on my podcast? And I had tons of people message me, including an 11-year-old boy, which what do I do, man?
Well, when you get to my level of fame, you approach me.
This is the point, right? I mean, the thing is, so bless him. He's one of the Alderney Blowers, one of their children, and I think I'm going to get him on the show.
Well, you could do a nice kind of Alderney series out there. You could get a nice location.
That's not a bad idea.
Even
in a bunker.
Maybe in a bunker. I always think up by Albert's over. Is it Albert? Yeah. Overlooking sort of the Bay of Alderney there. I always think that's a nice shot that you could do it on. Maybe a bit windy. You'd have to sort of...
What would the format be, though, of Alderney's podcast?
Well, like you said, you've started this, obviously, video series where you're talking to local people there. I think you've just got to eke out... So what people are interested in is island life. That's what people find so fascinating. They can't get their head around the idea that 2,000 people would live on an island where it's sort of... That's it. You to get off, you can obviously fly off the island, but... People go, well, what would you do in an evening? Like, where would you go? And this is why they're saying that some ridiculous stat about 60% of people are going to be living in cities one day, because people assume that's where everyone wants to be. I think you just need to continue to eke out the kind of irregularities and the quirky niches that makes it so funny, interesting sometimes, and get them to sort of present that so people really understand what it's like to live in these places. And Absolutely. I think you could have some great little chats with people that have been there for years and try and kind of convey bizarreness about it. And I think when I made my little film, I really tried to capture that aspect of this is such a different place to anything you understand, I suppose. And I think people enjoy hearing about that. People like laughing about the fact that you don't need an MOT on a car, so people are driving around in sort of 2-wheeled, 3-wheeled bangers from the 1930s, that kind of thing. I think people like the fact there's no kind of traffic lights on the island and you can go party in a bunker and stuff like that. People enjoy hearing about that because it's different to what they normally expect.
Well, that's it, mate. I think that this is something that I'll definitely pursue with Visit Alderney, because at the end of the day, if we can have an island podcast that invites anyone to come and talk on it, this is how this word of mouth spreads and creates social currency for people in the UK to talk about an island that they've only ever heard about.
People give the one show stick. All right, people shit on the one show for being this kind of it's like, next up John Craven's looking at hedgerows in Leicestershire kind of thing. They like to shit on it, but the reality is people like just watching that kind of stuff. Totally. And I'd love to present the one show. I'm speaking to any BBC employee. I think it'd be so funny to present that show and just
you'd be perfect for it.
Thank you. Obviously, just the randomness of that show and the different kind of they can go from North Korea to a discovery of a well in Yorkshire or something like that. They can really there's no limits to where they can figure. But people like just seeing little. That's why Country File is successful, and that's why Coast has been successful. People like learning about all these things, and I think with Alderney we've got a special opportunity to do something, try and extrapolate on that.
But there's a certain part of me that thinks that Alderney doesn't want people to know that it exists.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. But there's a fine line between. It's not a case of just getting loads of people to move there. Well, I mean, it's a case of getting people to appreciate it, and in terms of Alderney having a say when it comes to big debates about the island and why should it exist. If you've got an audience who say, "Well, hold on, Alderney deserves to have that," and people going, "Oh, I've heard about that," you need as many people banging your drum as possible at the end of the day, and the way you do that is by creating content and making people fall in love with it, whether that's on a screen or the reason I ended up doing the Mongol Rally is because I saw these amazing travel videos. It's very easy to edit travel videos, and it's not always the reality, as I've discovered having done that journey. But that's the way people decide they want to go places in the world, and Alderney is no different to that. If it wants to be supporting the issues, and it is facing issues. It's facing lots of issues, and it's going to face more issues as time goes on. If they want people to support that, then you've sometimes got to say, hey, look, this is us.
But you know that there's that Facebook group, right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Jesus, can you imagine how much amplified these squabbles would be if it was on a podcast? We'd have to do it at like either end of like the bar. You know, you'd have to kind of keep it a little bit distant.
That Facebook.
It's unbelievable.
I don't know if we should talk about that.
No, I want to do it. There's an Oldney discussion Facebook group is very heavily commented in by a few key people, right?
Yeah, I think one of them is related to me. So I don't want to. Yeah, it's a good source of. I'm not going to say entertainment. Well, sometimes entertainment.
Oh, hilarious, mate. I've even turned on the see first, so that is the first thing I see on Facebook.
I think when it really kicked off, the origins, people will scroll back through that. There's some excellent
good content
kicking off and some mud throwing from
But I love it because it's like, I mean, we've kind of had this social media thing since the very beginning, but it was only a couple of years ago that Oldney's Facebook discussion group kicked off, and now it's become more important than the journal. It's more important than the press. It's more important than anything else that goes on apart from Key FM.
Love Key FM.
Love Key FM.
I put that. Sorry, quicker. So I put Key FM on my CV for a long time. I did one show on Key FM.
I love it. Yeah.
And so obviously I went to my interview for broadcast journalism course because I did a good course, to be fair. And I said, I've been presenting on a hyperlocal radio station, and they were like, wow, that's so nice. And I was called up. Jenny Rowley and basically said, look, if anyone ever comes questioning whether or not, as far as you're concerned, I've been a seasonal presenter for years. It's wicked, it's brilliant. I love what they do. I think there was one summer where they played, that Sweet Home Alabama all summer long. Not Sweet Home Alabama, the Kid Rock version.
Yeah.
I think there was a summer that was every third song they played. I don't know if they were just running out of songs, but like next.
No, because this is the thing, is that like a little island radio station like that, like who's presenting even when they're not like presenting, because you hear the music, you're like, oh, that's Dougal, like, oh, that's Jenny.
So George and I presented a show with Henry Rowley, to be fair, on KFM. And we had all these songs we wanted to play. We had this whole theme about it. And then you realise the audience, because we wanted to play like Libertines and some of like contemporary music and stuff like that. And we kept getting texts in being like, can you play Frank Sinatra? Can you play Engelbert Humperdinck? Can you play a bit of Elvis Presley? I think I got to be like, right, we're playing Frank Sinatra. You're getting your way. All right. So we'll listen. We've listened to the people, and I think George was getting very irate about the fact we're gonna have to play all this like old Swooners music. But,
it's great, man. Nice. I still listen to KFM now every day. Every day, every day in the morning. Stick it on because you can listen anywhere around the world, and I just find it's really refreshing. I love hearing the little advertisements they have, and friends holding type things.
No, I did work experience at BBC Guernsey, which is like similar thing, sort of. Look, I mean,
BBC Guernsey.
It says you will, but no. Thanks very much to them for letting me go over there. But that was really interesting, because that's same again. It's about looking at really small news, because they're like, but how can we make the most interesting stories out of what we've got? And the first thing I ever said on the BBC, I was sat in the room just shadowing the guy, and there was a missing dog. There was a missing dog on the island. He went, I'm not reading that out. You read that out. So my first ever radio announcement was, there's reports of a missing dog in the northeast of the island. It's black and white. I was thinking, this is literally entry-level stuff. The first thing I'm ever doing is talking about.
Don't be silly, man. That's the most important shit that's happened all day. Did the dog get found?
Oh, I don't know.
You didn't follow up? You didn't even find out this poor bugger?
But this is how news can change so quickly. So the day I left BBC Guernsey is when the plane crash happened with the footballer.
No way.
Suddenly Guernsey becomes like the centre of the world for news. And suddenly it's a shame I didn't get an overlap, because you've really seen two sides of hyperlocal extrapolating the most out of some stories to suddenly this is the biggest story around. And then that was when people really didn't understand the channel lines, because I think apparently the Argentine consulate were going at Guernsey being like, you've got to do more, and Guernsey, we're doing physically as much as we can, with what we've got available. This isn't Britain, we don't have the boats, we don't have the resources they have to go and do what you're asking us to. We're doing as much as we possibly can, and that was quite a really interesting period to see. And then reporters going over and Alderney suddenly become this inflated level of importance. So yeah, that was an interesting time.
Yeah, I think, and around that time, I was so amazed because all my like UK friends were texting me, being like, "Cam, is that your island?" And I'm like, "What? What
Yeah,
are you on
because I
about?"
think originally there were pictures off just behind Baru of I think it was just a cloud, one of those kind of streaks in a cloud, and everyone was going, "Oh, someone had said, is this where it's gone? And is it?" And then suddenly you see it on the map appearing all the time. So yeah, that was.
It was quite
You're
close
right.
to Alderney, right?
Yeah,
It
well,
was-
I'm not quite sure, but I think it certainly flew over Alderney. It certainly sort of came into contact.
That's
So,
terrible, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, it's really the whole thing is really kind of dark and
Dreadful.
bizarre, but. From like a training journalist point of view, to sort of witness that was quite interesting.
That's crazy. And so now that you've seen inside the belly of the beast, you've seen the
What,
BBC.
BBC Guernsey?
BBC Guernsey, yeah, of course,
No, I
man.
don't know.
What do you feel about traditional journalism compared to this kind of new age stuff that you were kind of talking about, YouTube and social media?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, when you decide to be a broadcast journalist, the dream is to work for BBC, ITV, or something like that. That's really, CNN. It'd be amazing to go to America. And there's a lot to be said. I was there the other day in the BBC studios, and it is stunning. And I think what they have done is incredible. What these kind of conventional sort of the four main channels when they had their news outlets, what they have done is incredible. And I think they are catching up with. I mean, one of my favourite things is BBC Africa Eye, which is all kind of like a web series and stuff like that. And they're really moving into just web series. They've just released like BBC Real, I think, so they've cottoned on to the fact that this is how it's going. The fact is people do still tune in at 6 o'clock for the news. The radio is still huge around the world. The number of people listening to the radio is still well in the millions. And you hear all these stories about, during the wartime, people used to tune into BBC and stuff like that, wherever they were in the world. And even now, like, people in the cars you should never like write off the importance of radio as because people go, oh, who's watching TV and who's watching a scheduled show? It's all on iPlayer. When it comes to like radio, it's certainly completely different. And so yeah, I think they are still amazing for doing that kind of stuff. And I'm never gonna be read about them until I've got a load of friends working there. It's cool. It's ideally one day I'd love to go back to like BBC and work for something on like their radio shows, because radio particularly, TV obviously is great, but radio, I still think there's something so special about it.
Yeah,
which is why
yeah.
podcasts essentially are kicking off, because people like just tuning in.
Yeah, and I think people have found the time, the time that they didn't usually have, the time when they're, picking up the kids from school, or they're doing the washing, or like whatever people are doing, they can actually listen to.
Yeah, that's true.
People. There's also something I heard as well about the spontaneity of podcasts is what people like about. They might understand what they're in for if they sit down and watch the one show, right?
Yeah.
But they might not understand that from one podcast, they do understand that they could get a huge amount of value from like a guest or something they say.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
it keeps people's brains ticking.
It's funny. What you were saying about driving at BBC Guernsey, I helped out on BBC Drive Time, Guernsey Drive Time, and I'm like, it's an island where the average commute time is 20 minutes. So they've got the drive time show. I just thought that was brilliant. And
that's amazing.
And they'd always have the traffic report, obviously, and they'd be like, oh, it's complete the same as earlier, actually, because there's about 10 roads. So
That's
kind
it.
of thing. And every news report would be like, and yeah, same again, Avenue, blah, blah, blah. It's, I found that funny on BBC again. But fair play, they've got to do it.
Yeah, no, look, man, all of the Channel Islands have something special about themselves. I just love the fact that Alderney's so small and so itty-bitty that you're just a bit like, I mean, everyone wants, like, really good stuff out there. I want a good airline. I want good restaurants. I mean, you're like, guys, you're literally not in a good position to ask for anything right now. And this is the thing, is that, like, over the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I don't know, Aurigny has been getting so much stick for the transport issues. And I mean, I personally find it tough because I sympathise with Aurigny. As a company, whether they're owned by the states or not, their existence is to make money, right? And when you have an island that struggles to market itself, it's obvious why, it costs too much money to put these planes on all the time, especially when there's only like 2 or 3 people on a plane, and this is where suddenly, the groupthink kicks in on the island, and you go down the sailing club or Georgian or Marais and you hear, this rumor about the CEO of Aurigny, and that gets spread and that gets spread. And then we forget the fact that actually the hole in the back of the boat is not the transport, it's the marketing, at least my opinion anyway. It's supply and demand, right? If you don't have the demand, the supply will just not follow.
The only, I it's difficult to talk about really. But the only thing I'd say which they don't help themselves is they operate on a system of you have the 2 cheap seats. When they go, it goes up in price, and when they go, it goes up in price. So I think it's like the Ryanair model in that they market the cheap seats first. The second they go, they bump it up. So it's always going through different brackets in terms of cost. And I think that's the real shame, because then suddenly, so my friends and I, we want to go to Yorkshire. We wanted to. No, we wanted to go on holiday. Okay, and I said, well, look,
that's the lamest thing I've ever heard.
No, we wanted to go on a walking. Shut up. We wanted to go on like a walking holiday somewhere, and I was like, well, look, I've got a house in Alderney. Why don't we look at going this weekend? You go online, you go, no, scrap that. It's 150 quid each way for no apparent reason. Do you know what I mean? And that's because it goes all the way through. And I just wish they'd sort of keep it at a level where people would bite at it a little bit more. Because the second, but I mean, look, it's Aurini's a funny one to talk about, and you could go around in circles on it, I suppose.
Absolutely. But look, we'll still keep going there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've. This is maybe where they're winning. There's a very inelastic demand in terms of my want to go there.
That's it.
I'll always sort of find the money for it. And actually, fair play to my parents. This is the first year they helped me out. I was like, I physically don't think I could afford to come to Alderney. They went, no, don't be silly.
Don't be silly.
You're coming. But that doesn't ever normally happen.
But that's good of your parents though, because you can't expect to be paying that so regularly every year. I mean, you could go to Yorkshire for half of that.
Yeah, I mean, I could be going to Yorkshire, and I am, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
I can't believe you're going on holiday to Yorkshire, man.
I don't know if
holiday's
the right word, but yeah, we're
a walking trip.
On a getaway. But I mean, look, staycations are all the rage. You don't need to disappear anywhere.
No, absolutely. But now that you're back in London, kind of you're on a bit more full-time basis. I mean, what are you doing for fun?
So a really nice thing. So you asked me why I like sport. Every Saturday I go back to my family hometown in Dorking, and I'll play for the football team, which is good. And a lot of my mates from school are still doing that.
Great,
it's quite fun. Not a good standards, but
doesn't matter.
It's a good thing to do. And what other things am I doing for fun? I don't know. I think I keep myself quite busy. I'm sort of actually I'm not going to say this on camera.
Are you dating?
This is the thing, because I haven't really done that. I've sort of been so used to sort of seeing friends, and I've been lucky in that I went to uni here. A lot of my school friends have then moved up to London, and I've had workmates which I've made over time. So it's not as if I've been lucky in that a lot of the people I know are still in the city, so I'm able to sort of keep myself busy. And I live by myself at the moment, so
Whoa.
2 days. I think 2 days a week is fine,
bad.
but then you get to the third day where you just go back to yours, and you think, God, I'm lonely. kind of thing. You got to.
Mate.
Actually, write that off. Not lonely. I think like by the third day of just being in a place by yourself, you've got to be like, no, I've got to go out and do something.
Totally, man.
And
no, dude, lonely is the right word. Like I was really lonely when I first came to London. Like I was living with Belinda, my godmother, in Esher, and even though she's lovely, living with her is brilliant. But I used to come into the city to go for meetings, and then I'd have to kind of wait till a friend was finished work or whatever. So I'd kind of be sat there like a pret, just like, what am I doing? And then I lived in Richmond for a little bit, and then that was super expensive. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to go to a place where I can guarantee that loneliness will not follow me, and a warehouse with 20 people.
No, look, this is the
it's like halls
situation.
all over again, but everyone's a little bit older, a little bit more creative. No. People have their own jobs going, and I love it.
London is a really bizarre and interesting place. And I've had some friends who've said to me they're really struggling with it and stuff like that. And you don't realise, because I think it's so fast paced, and you always, if you keep yourself busy, you don't really stop to think about it. But it can be a really hard place to, especially as a student. I spent 4 years really having no money here at all and feeling constantly guilty about that kind of fact. And it's not that I've got really much money anymore, but it in terms of growing up and being somewhere, I do think it is fascinating, and I can completely understand. My sister now lives in Manchester and absolutely loves it. My younger sister's just moved out, and even a lot of my other cousins are sort of emigrating to different cities and stuff like that. And you get it completely. Like, I think it's easy to get swallowed up by London, but sometimes it's good to sort of get away, and that's why I like going home the weekends as well.
So, look, I think it's a great city, man. And now that you've been here, please, whenever you want to come around,
Oh,
dude,
cheers.
you're welcome whenever.
No, thank you.
You know, and we have a lot of events and stuff like that out here. So we have like festivals and art exhibitions and
What
parties.
in the actual
Yeah,
warehouse
just like
itself?
around here. I mean, there's 17 warehouses that are all connected. So Halloween, there was just like a massive Halloween party
Really?
just popping
That's
off, and
cool.
doormen and like guest lists and stuff. It's great. It's great, and I think this is the point: is that being here for me was a strategic move to go and find that inner creativity, because no one has money around here. I think I moved from Richmond where I didn't have any money then, but I was around people that had so much money and all these members clubs and all this stuff, which, in all honesty, it was like I was just there to make money for my business. Whereas now I'm around people that genuinely offer me value, and I think this is the number one thing that I've learned, which is that when you're young, you've just got to do the thing that you love. And because eventually you'll be responsible enough to have a family and a blah 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 blah, and then you can't just do what you love. Like you do
Yeah,
have to do
sure.
something that you maybe don't love, but because of the finance. So it's like at this age, it's just like just go and do it. Because this is the thing, is that like ultimately we're still going to be friends in 60 years time. And if it has its way, we'll probably live in Alderney.
Well, I know obviously your parents have
Oh, they're
settled
fully there,
there.
man.
They're
They are fully. In
locked in.
fact,
I'm not
my
sure.
my mum and dad are so retired to Oldney now that like that they've found new jobs, and their new jobs now like volunteering and choir and all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
And my mum's actually working for the Millie's Foundation,
Yes. Okay.
and they're trying to make Alderney kind of the first dementia. What's the word? I was about to say dementia free, but that ain't gonna happen on Alderney. It's like there's the ability to kind of teach the shopkeepers what someone with dementia looks like the estate agents. Like if you had dementia and you walked to the estate agent and just bought a house, they want to ensure that the community understands that, what it is like to deal with someone with dementia. So mum's all into that kind of stuff because she loves old people.
She's always very friendly when she was
Yeah,
just there.
yeah. But I think she's just trying to sort herself out. I think it's just like she knows she's creeping on a bit, so she's like, I better make this a really caring island for dementia, just in case they find me
That's
down
good.
the
I
joint.
think your family have been similar to mine in that come Ordinary Week, we've always got involved. It's always, it used to be a joke. They're like, oh, the hills have entered again, kind of thing, and that was always installed. And even people in my friendship group would tease us for doing the things, like for doing when I used to dance on the stage. And
Well, that's probably one of the most famous videos ever, mate. I still get asked to send that around
really?
every year.
I hope
Tell
not.
me about that. So the hills, the Hill Boys decides to come out on stage and
Okay. All right. Well, I'll give you a bit of context. Ordinary Week, obviously, the big event. If you go into our house, we've got a board on the top floor, and we've dated every ordinary event we've ever entered and how we did. Well, not like how we did. That's not so important. But like failure 2001 or something like that. But no, we've got every event we've ever entered like written down on a board all the way through. So it might say Henry. Tennis, Daft Raft, Dragon theme or something
Cool,
like that. So we've
it.
documented the entire thing, and my larger than life uncle Edward, he always used to joke about us doing the getting involved in the talent show in Alderney, and it started off with Marielle Raymond, who lived opposite us, because I live in a really lovely cul-de-sac there where all the houses are really friendly with each other. We have sort of communal dinners every night together, and it started off. She used to play piano and is an amazing singer, Marielle. And my cousin Jamie and Uncle Edward, we one year decided to be her backing dancers for "I Want You Back" by Take That. So this was in its kind of like nucleus form,
Okay.
so early form in that we just were swaying, going "I want you back, I want you back," and like not very good singing. And then we had a bit more like spin around.
So that was like the test.
Yeah, that was the test, and then we found it funny. So then the year after that, I must have been 15. We did Hey Ya, and she played Hey Ya, and then we had a bit more of a dance move going on. And then the next year she couldn't go, and then we thought, how can we go to the next level?
Screw it,
And
let's
then,
just enter the old new talent competition.
Yeah, and then so we entered it without her and put on as Bonsby and did Ricky Martin She Bangs. So we did She Bangs, which was some uncle works in Egypt, and he puts on these basically he sells property out in Egypt, in its simplistic terms. And one of the things he does is we invite everyone. I was lucky enough to go work experience there, but we get everyone on a catamaran and we take them out and we show them a really nice time. It's like a free trip for any possible buyers. And we take them scuba diving and stuff like that, and use snorkeling. Normally, like dolphins appear, it's quite like picturesque. And then they have a few drinks, and on the way back, sunset kicks in. They turn the music on, and the whole sales staff have all these coordinated dances which they bust out, and we get the kids involved. And like, I kid you not, by the end of that complimentary boat trip, at least one or two of the groups will say, "All right," because it goes past the sunset, and they see like the complex. The sunset, they go, all right, let's go have a look at this. And you know, if you sell one property off the back of that, then you've covered all your costs. And
so you're already an experienced dancer.
So Edward had these routines up his sleeve, and then we sort of, as a joke, put it all together, and that went comically well. I mean, it was embarrassingly well, and a few of the guys in the group. I mean, it was really funny. It used to be something we all look forward to. And then we did it the year after that. It got a bit silly, and then this is when you know you're famous, is when Ordinary Week ask you to come back and do it the year after that. So that's when we came back, and the video I think you made is our sort of swan song.
I love it.
So yeah, he's always Ed's always he's always threatening that we'll do it again. But,
I think you should. And of course, you know that the Ordinary Gala is back.
Yes, no, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Ordinary Gala's back. You know, there's always a slot for the Hill Boys, so might have to talk to my old man and see what we can do.
All right, well, I'll float that at Christmas and see how that goes down.
Listen, if Ed got wind of that, you know it's happening.
I think he's there right now.
So, of course he is. Yeah, of course he is.
Call him out.
I bet he's listening to the entirety of this podcast just to see if we mention his name. So, Mr. Ed Hill.
Yeah, that's his moment. All right. Yeah, you can find him on the Ordinary Discussions page, contributing regularly.
Exactly. This is seriously reputable journalism.
Yes, that's true.
I love it. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on to the Cam Talk show, mate.
Cam, thank you.
Listen, how can people kind of find out more about you, follow your pages, get in touch?
So, I mean, look, if you've got a slight interest in football, I'd say look out on the Football Daily. Look out on the Football Daily Challenge. Oh, no, right, I'm going to scrap that. Just do that again. If people do like football, you can see all the content I'm doing on the Football Daily YouTube channel. If you're not into football, I really wouldn't recommend it, because otherwise you're just wasting your time. Other than that, I think, you know, the second I start, hopefully if we do something one day, you'll see it coming out. And you know, especially in Alderney, I know a lot of people there, and eventually I will start to curate my page and get more content out there, and it's exciting. It's really exciting. I think for the first time, sort of doing something I want to do. I'm not worrying about what I should be doing next year. I don't have sort of a 5-year kind of plan. I'm just like focusing on how at the moment I can sort of push forward and really sort of push on with this broadcast journalism stuff, because it is fun and it's nice to not kind of worry about that for the first time. It's nice to be doing something like that. So yeah, I'm sure whatever happens, it'll be out there.
Nice, man. Well, we're definitely going to collaborate on a load of Alderney content. So, Mr. Henry Hill, thank you very much for coming on Cam Talks.